the national debt in the United States has just exceeded $30 trillion. And I know that at a certain point, we just kind of stop listening to this number because it's so large that we literally, as human beings, can't kind of comprehend what that means because it's such a big number. It's hard to understand how large even 1 trillion is. But I think it's important to kind of stop and really think about that, not just let it fade into the background, because it does pose a real kind of threat to you, to every person listening to this, in some way or another, because the system itself is very unstable just for the fact that we have so much debt, and that somehow, in some way, at some point, this is going to end badly. And this is not doom and gloom. I don't mean it to be that way. I just want you to think about this. So here's a couple ways to envision a trillion. $1 trillion bills laid end to end would stretch 96,906,656 miles. That's further than the distance from the Earth to the Sun. And $1 trillion laid side to side would cover more square miles than the state of Rhode Island and Delaware combined. That's a trillion. That's not 30 trillion, which is the actual debt. And two more ways to visualize this. If you spent $40 a second, it would take 792 years to blow through $1 trillion. And one more thing, if you were to count to a trillion, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it would take over 31,000 years to count to 1 trillion, not 30 trillion. So a couple things to think about, just to kind of help you envision what that actually means when we're talking about these large numbers. And I think it's important that people take some sort of step to protect themselves against these insane numbers and against this insane instability that exists somewhere, and that we don't know what's going to happen with this debt or how it's going to affect our everyday lives, but at some point we know that it will. Something will happen that will shake the confidence of the financial system, and you should probably be prepared for that. And I want to make sure that people really think about what it means to be prepared for something like that. And I'm not talking about Mad Max Into the World stuff. I'm just talking about basic, financial security. One thing that I think that would be important for people to do is to own some gold. And however you decide to do that, whatever form of gold that you decide to own, I think it's worth it just to have some, because so many people don't own any gold at all. I don't say put all your net worth into gold or go all in, but you should own some gold, I think. And I also want to throw one last thing that's probably going to be controversial. First, let me say, I talk about Bitcoin a lot, but I only do so because so many people are so misinformed and don't understand what it actually means to buy Bitcoin. And I'll also say, I believe in Bitcoin, I own Bitcoin, and I think there's nothing wrong with speculating in Bitcoin. I do hear a lot people use terms that are totally wrong when it comes to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is not a store of value, and I know people are going to jump all over me when I say that. I'm not even saying that in a bad way, because I just said I own Bitcoin, and I think that it's okay to speculate in. And in fact, I think that's a good speculation because it has asymmetrical upside, really. But a store of value, it is not. Something that has only been around for 12 or 13 years cannot be a store of value. There is not a predictable value that you're going to get from turning in your Bitcoin. There's just not. It's not predictable. It's very volatile. And I don't always see that as bad. I think that's sometimes good because it can give you an opportunity to increase the value of your assets. But it's definitely not a store of value. So I would say gold is much more predictable in what it's going to be worth. Even though it's not going to go up a ton, it's definitely more stable than Bitcoin. At this point, could Bitcoin become a store of value in the future? Of course, anything can happen. And maybe in a couple hundred years when Bitcoin has proven itself over that period of time that we can say that. But right now, that's not It's just not true. So please don't call Bitcoin a store of value. Call Bitcoin a good speculation. Call Bitcoin an opportunity. Don't call it a store of value. And please, everyone, do something to protect yourself against this $30 trillion debt.